No, this is not a Hollywood blockbuster. The planes crashing into these towers are real. And these buildings crashed to the ground, including one that wasn't hit by anything at all. The American population was terrorized, hypnotized, and traumatized by repetitive showings of the devastation, with the media repeating over and over that it was a terrorist attack.
Race don't matter, your faith don't matter, the enemy is government tyranny, all that other shit don't matter.
What's good, everybody? Peace. I just learned about this article. I was watching D Marble, shout out to him, man. He been dropping content for years, and he's been a big part of the community, and he started doing experiments to prove the earth is more or less level, unless there's mountains or hills or, so, and he proved there's no curvature. Go check his channel, a lot of good experiments. Anyway, I wanted to share this article. A lot of people have known this evidence has been between the pictures and the stage lighting. You could obviously see in these moon landing pictures just so many different variables to prove that it was all BS. But let's check this article out in this video. It's supposed to be of a guy in his deathbed that he was raised on the military base, and his father played a part in this whole facade of a moon landing. NASA insider confessed on Deathbed, "I filmed fake moon landing in 1969. This article is from September 15th, 2022. Look at that. Look at that sand, stone, and cement dust, cement powder. A New Mexico man has made a series of astonishing confessions since he was diagnosed with terminal cancer and told he has months to live. He claims the moon landing was faked by the US government with footage shot at a military base and the surface of the moon recreated with sand and cement powder. According to Gene Gomar, his father, a military policeman. This is his father right here. He was a military policeman who was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base, was involved in the massive deception that fooled the world, laying the groundwork for a government-sponsored mass formation psychosis that continued throughout the decade and into the current era. The deathbed confession filmed by his father in 2002 was destroyed in a fire of unknown origin. Yeah. Isn't that more of a coincidence that it always happens like that, or not always, most of the time, unknown origin? So Gomar decided to recreate it and share his father's story with the world before his own death. Never fails. Interruption every time I'm recording. So the rest of the article states, in the confession, Gomar, born Eugene Reuben Akers, says he doesn't want fame or money for what he is doing, because hopefully the video will not be released until after his death. Gomar passed away on February 13th earlier this year. So now we are able to view and share the extraordinary confession. Is the truth about the moon landing finally starting to leak out? I don't know about finally. There's been so much evidence of people like Bro Sanchez, Eric Dubay, ODD-TV, D Marble, uh, many others. There's just a long list, but those are a few I could name offhand that have exposed this and shown hardcore evidence. But a lot of people don't, they're just trained to only listen to these so-called people with authority or somebody with a BS college degree. You know, if your next door neighbor shows you something, most likely that person isn't going to believe or take in what's said because you don't have a piece of paper saying you're smart or you have mastered that or whatever. People get the point. In the past 12 months, NASA has made a series of revelations that have let the official narrative in shreds. Mainstream media barely reported on these revelations. So many people remain none the wiser about what NASA has admitted. It's very true. The truth of the matter is NASA has all but confirmed the landings were fake. And anybody who works in the space industry or has any knowledge about rocket science has quietly accepted that the whole thing was a charade. And now they keep pushing back and delaying the Artemis program. Yeah, it's because it's bogus. They realize that people are good. These researchers in the communities searching for the truth and debunking a lot of this stuff are good at looking at photos and and picking out stuff like, you know, the lighting. That was some hardcore evidence. And just a lot of other evidence. People are good. They'll be like, you know, pick out the CGI. There's programs you could put videos in and it'll show you the CGI. I mean, there's ways to find everything out. So they have to come up with something very believable. But let's move on. So the question is, so why is no one talking about this? People been talking about this. Just like they said in this article, it's just not mainstream. We literally didn't go to the moon in 1969. And to this day, no human being, American, Russian, Chinese, or ancient Egyptian, has been past lower Earth orbit, which is 1,000 miles above sea level. Did you know NASA has finally revealed the truth about the fake moon landing? That's right. No human being has ever been higher than 1,000 miles above sea level, except for those times we went to the moon, which is 240,000 miles away. And guess what? We did that in 1969, when the computer with the computing power of a T189 graphic calculator was the size of a house. We didn't even have the technology for VCRs yet. We didn't even have tape recorders. Fast forward to today, over 50 years later, when an iPhone 12 has more computing power than every single computer on Earth in 1969 combined. Factual. Or I'm going to say very true. Now, another thing I want to add to that, you seen the president talking supposedly to somebody on the moon with a landline. And to this day today, with these Androids and iPhones, people barely get any service in the mountains. So you mean to tell me in 1969, the president was talking to people on the moon? 240,000 miles away? Red flags. It says, and yet, NASA claims that we can't go back to the moon because we have lost the technology to go to the moon. Apparently it was destroyed, but they won't tell us how or why. Seems legit, but it gets even worse. Tired of people asking to analyze the original moon landing tapes. NASA had to admit they lost them. Then the story changed and they claimed they had taped over the original moon landing tape because of budget cuts. Come on. That's a pure slap in the face. In the States, apparently, they have since found the original tapes in a suburban garden shed in Las Vegas. Conveniently for NASA, they weren't found in a Hollywood basement used by Stanley Kubrick. Because let's face it, how likely is it that NASA would actually tape over the original footage of mankind's greatest achievement? Because of budget cuts, really? And the fact that the TV broadcast watched by hundreds of millions was not sent directly to TV stations, but was rather a projection of the broadcast of a wall, which was then recorded and sent out. Doesn't sound like NASA is covering their tracks or anything. Let's face facts. Everything that was done 50 years ago is 1,000 times cheaper and easier to do today. We are actually accepted to believe that we went to the moon in this piece of junk 50 years ago. I've seen homeless encampments on Skid Row that have more insulation. I've seen Met Gala costumes that look sturdier than that. It's also implausible. Who shot the event from outside the capsule? How is the American flag waving? Why do the shadows look like they are the result of multiple light sources? Why is the letter C visible on one of the rocks, which happens to look like a prop on the film set? And don't forget about the time NASA astronaut Alan Shepard supposedly snuck a golf club and some balls onto Apollo 11 and played golf on the moon. Hold on. How do you sneak a golf club onto a spacecraft when every cubic inch and ounces is accounted for? Really, let's think about this rationally. In 1969, we sent a tiny homeless tent covered in aluminum foil 250,000 miles away to a precise location when even being one one-thousandth of an inch off in any part of the launch would have caused the ship to miss the moon by thousands of miles. And yet we landed it. We played golf. And now we can't even get humans past 1,000 miles above sea level? Perhaps the final word should go to Buzz Aldrin. According to Buzz, we didn't go to the moon at all. But he didn't stop there. Listen to what he says about the hundreds of millions of people around the world who were affected by the moon landing. It's called mass formation psychosis. The elite has been using these techniques to brainwash the masses since 1969. Maybe even before then. So, and it says at the bottom, hold on. Source, The People's Voice, YouTube. Nice. Anyway, let's check this video out. Right here.
Hello, my name is Gene Gilmore. My birth given name is Eugene Reuben Akers. I don't want any money for what I'm doing because hopefully this video won't come out until after my death. So I have nothing to gain, nothing to profit by telling you what I'm going to tell you. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you is available online until they see this video. And I'm sure things will start getting scrubbed. As well as moon photos. But anyway, my father in 1968 was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. I made notes on my computer so that I wouldn't forget anything, because there's a lot of little things and stuff that I'd forget. So these notes were made a long time ago. The original recording that my father made on his deathbed was destroyed in a fire. So this is my deathbed confession, because now I'm dying of cancer. I've got cancer all over the place, and they don't know where it's coming from, and I don't know if they can stop it, but it don't look good. So I'm going to go ahead and make this video for Bart Seibel. He knows not to do anything with it until notification of my death, for which my son will respond to that. Okay, like I said, in 1968, my father was stationed at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. We lived in Clovis, New Mexico. He was in the military police for over 20 years, and on his deathbed in 2002, we made a recording of what happened. Now, I already told you what happened to the recording. But it doesn't matter, because all the facts are there, so it doesn't matter who's telling the story or whatever. I will, at the end of the video, I'll supply a picture of my father, his badge, the flag of when they buried him. I'll show you some photos of my dad. I was born in 1955. So in 1969, I was 14 years old. I vividly remember the Apollo 11 coming down, landing on the moon, they're walking around and all that stuff. Anyway, I never questioned that until my dad told me what he told me on his deathbed. And then I started doing a little, nothing major, nothing, just surfing the web, I think they call it, surfing the web. And a lot of that information's right there on the web. I mean, it verifies the story that he told me. A good detective, a good one, would be able to uncover a lot more of the story that I'm getting ready to tell you. So, please have at it. I've never known my dad to lie. To get caught lying was worse than whatever it was you did to begin with. I remember going to school with long sleeve shirts on to hide the purple welts. You did not lie in our house, that's for sure. Dad had a really bad attitude towards lying. Excuse me again. Okay, anyway, this is the story that my dad told me on his deathbed. Project Slam Dunk was the name of this. President Johnson in 1968, okay? In Cannon Air Force Base in 1968, he said by the time he got there, that there was already 2 large hangars that were connected. There was hundreds of dump trucks that came in and dumped sand and stone, and cement powder was powdered over the top of all that to make it look like a lunar landscape. They had men that fashioned it into a lunar landscape, he said. Okay, I've never known my dad to lie, so this all took me by surprise. You know, what's that all about? So anyway, he said that in front of the airplane hangars was pole framing with large canvas tents that was concealing the inside of the staging area. Inside the staging area, on flatbed trucks, was uncrated the lunar lander that was reassembled back inside the hangars. All of the walls were painted flat black, and the ceilings as well. He was sworn to secrecy by the NSA, and they would put him in prison for breaking that oath. When Dad saw the moon landing on TV, he cried. He said he knew that what he had witnessed on TV was exactly what they recorded in that hangar. There was no reason for them to go flying around and everything. They had detailed high definition photos of the landing area. There was no reason for them to go flying around to a different landing area that almost exhausted their fuel, except for drama, because everything had gone so smoothly. Nothing, so it had to be something. Anyway, um, Dad was one of 3 guards that guarded the inside of the front entrance. There was a list of 15 people who could enter. No one else was allowed by order of President Johnson. And here is that list. And I gave it to Bart Cyprell as well. And he checked out a lot of these names, and he says he can verify a lot of these people and what they do. And I come across a couple myself. Anyway, President Johnson, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Alden, Werner von Braun, Robert Emenegger, Gene Kranz, James Webb, Joe Kerwin, Dr. Thomas Paine, Glenn Looney, Dr. Christopher Kraft, Dr. James Van Allen, General Trudeau, Lieutenant Colonel Donald Simon, and Grant Norrie. Now, the only 2 that I really have information on is Robert Emenegger. Apparently, he did a lot of video work and stuff for the Department of Defense. So the DoD did know him, okay? And the other one was Grant Norrie, Norray, I believe, was to the best of my dad's knowledge, was a like some FBI, CIA, NSA, who knows, something like that. Okay, President Johnson only showed up for the first day of filming. Filming lasted for 3 days, and the entire project was restored to original. In other words, the hangars were all taken apart, the sand was all removed, and so on and so forth. Okay. Dad said there was a lot of building going on at the base, so at the time, so sand and cement powder was never questioned. I can see how they could smuggle that all in within everything else that's going on. Since 2002, I have dug up, I already told you about that, the evidence for the moon landing that I have found. If you go to Google and go to Cannon Air Force Base website, they admit that President Johnson was there. The lunar lander was there. The astronauts were there. I also have verified some of the people on the list were there. I also verified there are a lot of building going on in the base, just as he had told me. And all of this was going on at the same time, on the same date. Dad told me all these things father to son. He also told me not to ever tell anyone what he had said, but he said on his deathbed that he had to tell somebody before he died because it was just too important not to tell. I sure as hell wasn't going to tell anybody. Yeah, I feared for my wife and me and my son, and I'll tell you why. Ever since I contacted Bart Cyprell, I think they may be listening to his phone once in a while, because I never had any problems until I contacted him and told him my story. Now, people broke into my house 2 times. I was visited by men with black suits, and I was told in no uncertain terms to drop this whole project, not to say anymore to anybody, or me and my wife and my son could disappear. You take that pretty literally after everything that's going on. Well, so I stopped contacting Bart, and now I'm making this video that I'm going to send to Bart. Mr. Cybrell, excuse me. Bart's my brother, man. My brother in heart, my brother in Jesus, okay? Bart, being a good friend that he is, called the police for me and told them about the break-ins. The two detectives that came out and everything questioned me and everything like that, I didn't give them any information at all. At the time, I thought it was a test from them guys in the black suits. I didn't say crap. So all that went away and everything. But it definitely, the two guys in the black suits were not the two detectives that came out to question me about the break-ins. But thanks, Bart. But no, I don't want any help. I just want somebody to pick up where I left off and be able to prove with the information I've given. And I'm trying to give as much as I can because I know that once I die, I'm not going to be able to be asked any questions. So that's why I tried to give you a little backstory too. But that's about all I can think of. My dad, he raised me by the book. I know he didn't lie to me. And as I started seeing more and more of what he was telling me was true, I realized my dad wasn't lying. I lifted the lid off my dad's case, and you can see that his name is Cyrus Eugene Akers. He was born on July 17th, 1933. He died on September 28th, 2002. Here's his badge, and I wanted to see if I could get as close as possible so that you can read the numbers on the bottom, which are, okay, there it is. (07596). 07596. That's my dad. And it must have been a really early picture because he's only got 2 stripes, so that was back in the 50s, I'm sure. Probably not long after I was born. And there he is. That's my father. My dad, he raised me by the book. I know he didn't lie to me. And as I started seeing more and more of what he was telling me was true, I realized my dad wasn't lying.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think in the comments. And let me know when you started to learn about the moon landing and what you think the moon landing is real or fake. Peace out, everyone. Be safe. Keep your heads up and stay focused. Keep screaming the truth. Peace.